It's a real pleasure for me as a longtime fan to be sitting here with Aaron Gray.
Here with Larry Hama.
We're talking with Kevin J. Anderson, best-selling author.
Mr. Neil Adams.
I am here with David Prince.
Axel Alonso, editor.
Shadow Stevens. And Devil's Comic-Con with John Delancey.
With Tom King.
Kevin Conroy.
Free comic book day.
Denise Crosby.
PopCon Pop Expo.
Here on location at Star Wars Celebration.
Sci-Fi Expo, talking for our second time with Gil Gerard.
Wichita, Kansas at Time Eddie.
Producer David Gerald.
I've got Eric Flint.
Are here at Smallville Comic-Con.
Wizard World St. Louis.
VillageCon in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Michael Lombardi.
We were talking with Alan Dean.
Quincy Allen.
Suzanne Landon.
Of Starlord Magazine, Mr. Kerry Oakwell.
Chris Sami.
Len Lee. Dave Schwartz. Mano Intirami. Jason Aaron.
This is Sci-Fi for Me, your portal to the science fiction multiverse.
The Immortal Mass, a 1970s superhero crime noir adventure that follows a retired soldier who is given a covenant interview with a death row inmate. What he learns from the interview thrusts him into Atlanta's shadowy underworld. He will have to utilize his military training to survive from being hunted for the information that could topple the most powerful ruling class in the city. This is not a pre-order or a crowdfunding campaign. Get your books now at Denali's.com.
They are defeated. I have carried out the commands of the Almighty.
Enough! Is tribute better than obedience? Because you have rejected his command. He has rejected you!
Wait!
The Almighty has torn the dominion from you today.
Samuel!
And has given it to one who is better than you. A man after his own heart.
Samuel!
We cannot stand by while our people are under attack.
I will not be dictated to by a child.
I could save the kingdom, Mother. Would you have me do nothing?
Do not stir up your father's rage. You will tear this family apart.
Order defenses have failed!
The Philistines are coming.
Open your eyes, Jonathan. Our father is not the just king you wish him to be.
You have duties to this family, to your people.
I saw a young warrior.
Who did you see?
The spirit of the Almighty was with him.
I will not lose my throne. Dominion is mine. I am king. I am Saul.
"25 seconds to curtain, folks."
Your favorite podcast is Critical Blast.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Baron Bell. Dr. Bell, thank you for coming on this Sunday morning to share a little Bible study through the way of comics, science fiction, and anthropomorphic characters. This is, I remember when we talked about the first issue. This is one that had me excited, and I see that flame is still burning in there.
That flame can never be extinguished. So just very excited about what's coming next. We got our next chapter releasing, Dominion Chapter 5, and we're wrapping up Chapter 4 and 5, as well as some sneak peek of our newest series, Border Wars, into Dominion Volume 2, and we're officially launching tomorrow, but our pre-launch page is already up.
That would be this page right here, folks. And if you're wondering what Dominion is, just think Star Wars meets Narnia has been the way that people have described Dominion. If you saw the trailer there, you saw the lions and the crows, and there will be, of course, other animal types in there. There was one thing that kind of threw me in the dialogue there, Doctor, and it was when the prophet Samuel told Saul there was a man after his own heart. I was like, wait a second, do the lions refer to themselves as men?
That's a creative choice by my co-writer Daniel Hancock, and honestly, it's we want to, as much as we want to be our own thing, we do kind of adhere back to the biblical text from time to time to basically quote scripture directly into our books.
Yeah, and it would have sounded weird to say a lion after his own heart.
Yeah, exactly.
We get the general man concept as a sentient being in this context here. Doctor, you have a fan on your desk there? It's something's.
I think it's just my computer fan, actually.
Okay, something's whirring and it's kind of muting your voice a little bit. I mean, we can hear you and everything, but
hold on a second. Let me get this side. Okay, how does that sound? Is that better?
Yeah, that is. Oh, that's the side that the mic is on. Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry. I don't do all this stuff too much.
I had those too. I forgot all about that sometimes.
So weird.
Well, with me, it would get caught in the beard, and then it would like bounce against my chest when I was talking. So there, people would get this.
Well, you do have a very good beard game going on.
It's been. This is what laziness can do for you.
Or wisdom.
Well, I spent time on things that weren't necessary, and shaving the beard just hasn't been necessary.
We'll go with laziness then.
That's exactly it. So for people who have not seen the show or who are just now tuning in, tell us the elevator pitch for Dominion.
Dominion is Star Wars meets Narnia. It's basically our sci-fantasy adaptation of the book of 1 Samuel, which is the story of the foundation of the kingdom of Israel, starting with King Saul. And of course, the book is called The Fall of the House of Saul. And then, of course, it kind of transfers to the next king that no one ever knew about, or who knows what that guy is. I guess it's David, maybe.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, it really is us really trying to find new and different ways to get people to read the Bible.
It's if you have read the Bible, you can see that the story is beat for beat everything that was going on there. It's just the fact that the Philistines are from another planet and Goliath is a mech.
Yeah. If you look in, I think it's chapter 3, you're going to see the Philistines are kind of cybernetically enhanced reptilian creatures out of someone's nightmare, pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, they definitely lean on co-opting technology that they don't create to kind of fabricate all sorts of different monstrosities and things to try to match parity with Dominion's technology, which is very high.
Well, we did say that the Kickstarter is launching tomorrow, and the pre-launch page is out there right now. That link, folks, is out right under the video here. If you want to get in on the pre-launch page, go ahead and click that. But while the Kickstarter says Volume 2, that's actually a collection. You're up to issue number 6, and if you want to see individual issues,
5. We're up to issue 5. That's coming out with this Kickstarter.
Okay, I miscounted. But here is the page for Terminus Press, where you can find each of the individual pages, and that link is also right below the video. You can click at any time. If you're watching on replay, it's still there. And I'm going to look at the web page because there's just more imagery here, and wow, what imagery there is. I mean, this artwork is absolutely stunning and phenomenal.
Thank you. That's the Seraphim Marines That's like our elite Navy SEALs of Dominion. If you see a Seraphim Marine, if you are a good guy, it's salvation. If you're a bad guy, it's pretty much the last thing you'll ever see.
It just brings back all those old feelings of when I was a kid watching Voltron or these other mech shows.
Robotech, yeah, definitely. I mean, the Transformers. Me and my team, we are all of a certain age where we find that stuff very nostalgic, and it definitely is an influence in the work that we do. I mean, you can see influences of Star Wars. You can see influences of Battlestar Galactica, Dune, definitely, Robotech, Transformers, Thundercats. So yeah, all of that stuff is definitely a part of it.
Yeah, and I remember the first one where it was a bit of a tragic story, because Saul was trying to do the will of the Almighty, but did more or did it different than was told. Sort of like the way Moses was told to talk to the rock, and then he went and hit it, and he's like, "I didn't tell you to hit it. Guess what? You screwed up." So, walk us through what Saul did in issue number 1 that got him basically cut off from the power of the Almighty.
Well, we take this directly from the Bible, and as a matter of fact, the first thing you see in, I think it's like the first 5 pages of chapter 1 is directly taken out of 1 Samuel. I think it's like chapter 13 or 14. And it is basically Saul being admonished by High Priest Samuel for basically not adhering to the letter of the word of the Almighty, stating that you must not just defeat the Amalekites, you must utterly annihilate them, meaning erase them from the earth. That doesn't mean taking spoil. That doesn't mean taking hostages. That doesn't mean any of that. It means utterly annihilating. Now, that may sound callous and cold to our modern day ears. However, at the time, if you left any remnants of a defeated enemy, they're still an enemy. They may come back one day to torment you. That's what the point was. And, well, actually, no. The point was obedience. And this wasn't the first time that Saul had disobeyed the Almighty. And we call God Elohim in our book the Almighty. That's his name. He's the same thing. It's the same equivalent. And God required obedience. And, then even in the Bible said, is obedience better than sacrifice? Obviously not. Definitely not in Saul's case.
And I believe Saul kept some, in Dominion, Saul kept some of the warriors alive, or he conscripted them, took some technology.
He kept King Agag alive, and he basically took all of their choice ships, weapons, to basically add into Dominion's stockpile. In the Bible, it says sheep and whatever herds.
Yeah.
But, this is our equivalent. But it's still the same thing. It's like you're adding to your power by the spoil of a defeated enemy. And the Almighty didn't tell you to do that. That means that you're not relying solely upon the Almighty for your victory. You're relying upon your own technological prowess or military prowess for your victory, and that's not the point at all.
And of course, the fall of Saul isn't immediate. It's not like, the throne just crumbles right then. It's like, oh, that was a sign. Yeah, we're done. It's a very slow unfolding tragedy that happens now throughout these issues. and I don't know if you've introduced David or not. I do know that Jonathan, who's going to be David's best friend, has been playing a major role throughout these stories here as he's trying to get his father back on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like Saul is slipping down a slope into narcissism and maybe a little insanity. Just he's not going to listen to anybody.
It's very Shakespearean. I will admit to. My co-writer Daniel Hancock is a master at what he calls triangulation. It's basically weaving the narrative through all of these different stories of these interconnecting people in their lives. And so, we haven't officially introduced David, but he's coming. And our focus, and one of the reasons why I really liked adapting this particular portion of the Bible is, number one, it really hadn't been done before. When you look at the story of 1 Samuel, the first thing you think of, is David. You don't think of, you may think of Saul, but you think of him as this kind of a caricature of a bad guy, of a bad king. And when I read this story several years ago, I saw nuance. I saw myself in him in a lot of ways. I saw myself in Jonathan as a son. I knew that there was more to the story of Saul, and he himself wasn't he wasn't the only one that fell. It was his whole family that fell. It was his family. And even if you read in the Bible, generations of Saul's family were affected by Saul's decisions. And I was very intrigued by that. And I said, man, this would make a really great kind of a Shakespearean type tragedy. And I think we especially in Western tradition, we love the hero winning and saving the day and the good and happy ending. I was not really wanting to do that with this. That's why the book is called The Fall of the House of Saul. I want to see the slow train wreck. I want to see how human, yes, even though these are anthropomorphic characters, just like a C.S. Lewis story would be, it is very human. And talking about human frailty and nobility as well. And then why things happen the way they happen, and how does all of this relate to our relationship with the Almighty?
I don't know how far you guys have planned to take this series. If you're going to just kind of stop with the installation of David on the throne, or if you're going to keep going from there, because as much as Saul had disobeyed the Almighty, David did too.
Mm-hmm.
But David was a friend of God, so there was a little bit of deistic nepotism going on, because you had tragedies in David's house, the story of Bathsheba, and what David did to obtain her. Not a nice guy. What happened to Absalom? Definitely a tragic family story there, and so I'd love to see the whole thing just play all the way out. Just keep it rolling.
Right now, the current plan is to, by Christmas this year, we're wrapping up the story of Saul in chapters 6 and 7, which will be kind of like our Avengers Endgame type situation, where it's like the battle you've all been waiting for. This is David and Goliath collision course. And so that will wrap up that story. It will be in Dominion Volume 3. That's coming out for Christmas 2023. But we've also introduced in Volume 2 at the end the Dominion Border Wars, which will be it's just like behind the scenes imagery that Daniel Hancock is spearheading with Matt Baker, Daryl Pennington from Australia. They used to work for Disney Australia, and they're now doing all sorts of other things in Christian circles, which is really, really cool. That is going to be our next direct successor to this main Dominion storyline, but it's expanding. Well, actually, it's kind of like a prequel because we're telling the story of the judges through the Border Wars. And then after that, yes, there's going to be Dominion Rise of the House of David. And not sure when that's coming because we do have a couple of other projects that we're working on, and we're trying to kind of elevate this first storyline into animation. So we're definitely trying to work on that. So the Rise of the House of David is TBD. So
okay, but the animation, that's that would definitely translate well to the screen, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not sure if you saw Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse.
I've seen the first one, not the second.
See this, bro. See the second one. It's better than the first one, first and foremost. The art is elevated, but also the family dynamic is enhanced. They give it more time, they give it more heft, gravity. The stakes are raised tremendously. The stories of the relationship between fathers and sons, fathers and daughters, mothers and sons, it's palpable. And so that's the type of stuff that we're trying to do too. But they're laying the groundwork by creating a really fun, energetic, fantasy or science Marvel superhero adventure that crosses the multiverse. That's kind of like the standard that we're trying to aim for with the main animation form, definitely.
Have you made any steps into the animation yet? I mean, are there test scenes that you worked on?
Oh no, man, you're asking too much right now.
Because I know an animator that I'd be happy to introduce you guys.
Well,
to.
definitely, let's talk. We haven't really. We're finishing up this first. As soon as we get to the end of the year, the Dominion team and the Terminus team is going to take a well-needed deep breath. We still have other projects that we're working on at the same time, but this story really is like our baby. And so, into next year, we will start having those discussions about, okay, what to do next, and who do we need to talk to about elevating the project.
So Mike Walters in the chat dropped by to say hi, like, and share. Do appreciate that. And of course, tonight on the mic stand will be his panel discussion over the week's events that he's been covering on his channel. If you haven't subscribed to Mike Walters at the mic stand, get out there and do so. Get all your niche news of manga, anime, and professional wrestling every single night. I was going to go somewhere after this, and then I forgot where it was. Don't get old, Dr. Bell. It definitely sucks.
No. Well, I mean, I can't help it. The great. So.
What was it Humpty Dumpty said? One can't help growing older, but two can. If you do it right. So I was looking for the panel that I remembered last time where it was our first hint of Goliath, and I think it was in the trailer.
Yeah, it's a big footprint.
It was an enormous footprint.
Yeah,
it was like the side of a moon.
Yes, the Seraphim. That the first mission that you see the Seraphim go on in book 1 is they have been dispatched to the Dominion outpost on the moon of Libna, and they have lost contact with it. It's on the fringe, it's on the border near the neutral zone between the Philistine Empire and the Dominion. And there have been kind of whispers of some probing events into Dominion territory by perpetrators unknown. There is a rumor of an ultramech that's called Goliath that operates on an unknown energy source. And so the Seraphim Marines are dispatched to basically investigate what happened. When they land, they find the outpost is completely destroyed and one gigantic footprint.
It's a story that will grab your attention, folks, and you'll want to read more of this, which is why I wanted to see the rise of the House of David. I want to go into Solomon. I just want the whole. You've got source material to work with. You can't be like Kathleen Kennedy and say, "Well, there's no Star Wars books out there that we can play from."
It's funny you mentioned that. I have a twin brother. He's not a Christian, but he is he's a nerd like me, and we got that in common. So we have hours and hours of conversation. When I first told him about Dominion and I showed him the first book and he was loving it and everything, I mean, as a nerd, how could you not, Thank you, Jesus. But I will say this, though. He said, why does it have to be about the Bible? Or why did you name all these characters after biblical characters, blah, 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 blah? Well, I said, well, I could easily do a story that's completely from an original context, but that my goal wasn't to create a story. My goal was to get people to read the Bible. That's my only goal, my main goal. Yes, I want to entertain. That is the method through which I am going to reach my goal and achieve it. But the goal is to point people back to the Word. The best way to do it is to tell allegorical stories that can remind people of the biblical text. Now, like I said before, we are not closely adhering, of course, because we're in outer space and there's lions and all sorts of things, but the underlying bones of the story are definitely point for point the biblical story.
Mike is pointing out that you're putting a Christian comic on Kickstarter. I know, don't tell him, because we know there's people on Kickstarter that get offended easily. Hope he's also using Fund My Comic just in case things get canceled there. Yeah, well, I don't think not yet, but Dr. Bell's going to talk with me after the show. I'll let him know what's going on with that.
Yeah, I mean, listen. I get the controversy. I get all of that stuff, and I know creators who have been canceled, and I have seen projects get tanked because of that. I don't think about that. My whole thing is, in order to reach the masses, you got to go where the masses are, and the masses are on Kickstarter. Arguably speaking, they're there. And I do believe that our message is not presented in a way that is set to offend. You know what I'm saying? You can catch a whole lot more flies with honey than vinegar. And I do believe Christ calls us to be very shrewd when we approach the world. He's as shrewd as serpents, but gentle as doves. And so, when we are sharing our work, look at that comic book page. That cover by our fantastic artist, Matt Baker. Look at that cover. That's not saying anything that's going to offend anybody. If anything, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. What is that? Hello? We have to be smarter, as Christians. You got it. Listen, I understand that in the past, there have been very heavy-handed presentations of the gospel, and a lot of people thought that was the way to go. Unfortunately, and my family can be used as a clear example, that does not work. I have a mother who is a devout Christian, but she's very heavy-handed. My brother and I grew up in the same household. I am a very strong Christian. He is an atheist. We had the same upbringing. I think a gentler hand may have prevented that. So I'm not saying to be a sellout or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying we gotta be smart about how we present our message to people. There's nothing wrong with being entertaining. Look at The Chosen. I posted an article today on my Facebook group, the Mini Comic Fans, and The Chosen has gotten acquired by Lionsgate, picked up by the CW for the first 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's very good storytelling, beautifully acted,
There's
solid characterization.
A scene from that just they're taking liberties. They have to tell a story. They have to fill in the gaps, and as long as you don't contradict, the points that you do have for tent poles in the storyline, I think that's okay. But the one that I'll always remember is when the apostles are going to stay at somebody's house. He's letting them in. He's like, yeah, you can pick any room you want. Just be careful, the upstairs room. That was my grandmother's room and it's haunted. And Jesus says, oh, I want that one.
Let's see. This is what I'm saying. You have 2 choices of how to deal with that. You can rant and rail and be mad all day, or you can take the win, because guess what? You have found something that is a point someone can relate to who may not be a Christian. There's an article, my friend Dr. Bill Barnett, he posted saying one of the members of the Chosen cast, who was previously not a Christian, has come out as a Christian. Guess what? Something's working. And so my thing is, you can catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Our job is not to save anybody. Our job is to be farmers. You know what I'm saying? We have seeds. We plant them. A farmer doesn't make anything grow. It is the fertilizer, it's the rain, it's the nutrients in the soil, it's the worms, it's all that stuff that makes it grow. So we need to look at ourselves as farmers, and then the Holy Spirit makes everything else happen. And so that's all we're doing. We're, at the Minion and Terminus Media, we're just farmers, basically.
Yeah, historically, Christian comics have been blunt, I guess is the way to say it. I mean, I grew up with a lot of the Spire Archie comics, and while they were as gentle as Archie comics, they were still pretty much, in your face with, hey, this you're doing a wrong thing here. We're not really getting to know you as much as we're getting to confront you. And then, of course, Jack Chick Tracks just pulled out a sledgehammer and started hitting you with it.
Gotta love the Chick Tracks.
I had so many of those things. They were fun to read, but
wow. There's a spectrum. I'm not saying that there's not a place for that, because there are a lot of people who got saved by Chick Tracks. Lots, tons. And I truly do believe even placing a Chick Track at a subway station where someone can pick it up. Come on, man. You can't dispute that. You can't dispute it. It's a numbers game. After a while, it's a numbers game, and so there's a place for that. I haven't been called to do that though. I've been called on the closer to the other end of the spectrum, where it is much more creative in my delivery, in our delivery, and I pride my team for that. I pride, of course, we give all thanks and praise to the Lord Jesus Christ for the inspiration first. And then we pride our team in our professionalism and our hustle, because we got good hustle, our level of skill and ability. We stay pretty much on top of the trends artistically, technologically, all of that, so that we can maintain an equal, if not better, level of quality with everything else that's out there. You can put a Dominion book on the comic book shelf right next to a Marvel comic, and guess what? People will buy it.
Yeah, because it looks like a professional comic. It looks like an exciting science fiction comic. People didn't buy the Chronicles of Narnia because they're like, oh, look, here's a nice telling of the Gospel of James. They bought it because there were these engaging fantasy characters that were in adventures, and oh, by the way, you picked up some stuff that you weren't expecting.
Or the Lord
along
of the
the way.
Rings, for that matter.
Lord of the
Come
Rings,
on, man.
absolutely.
I
I mean,
mean,
you know, they
listen.
were friends, so of course it's going to carry over like that. Put some notes here. So I understand making the main characters, which would be like the allegory for the Israelites, into lions, because that's that's biblical. You got the lion of the tribe of Judah. The that was always sort of a reference there. How did you pick the other characters? I mean, technically Samuel's an Israelite and he was a crow. So.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was just thinking about what would be cool, you know, as an artist. To tell you the truth, there wasn't any real thing about it. I mean, listen, I've always been a fan of like anthropomorphic characters, like Thundercats and all that stuff. So I was always like into it full deep. And when I came up with the idea to even do this, I said, I'm doing this with anthropomorphic characters. Number one, because the animals, they transcend race. They do. And so anyone can relate if they're hearing something, truth communicated through an animal more quickly than they would a person, a human being who has a kind of automatic bias installed when you look at them. And so, but when it came to Dominion is actually referencing the world. It's actually referencing all of the denizens of nature, the Dominion. And so I'm like, okay, I want diversity as much as possible. So, but Samuel in particular, and the crows in particular, one of the things that I was thinking about is, okay, when you think of wisdom, what animal comes to your mind first?
Usually an owl.
An owl, right? Well, I mean, I'm kind of bucking cliche, even with this story, talking about Saul instead of David. So it's like, I'm bucking cliche. So instead of owls, what other animals am I drawn to that could kind of communicate something similar, but a little bit deeper than that? And so I was always drawn to crows because crows denote a lot of different things like mischievousness, even death, harbingers of death, things of that nature. Look at Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, and you know, I know they're not the same thing; they're very closely related. And so I like that because it's a conversation piece as far as to why, and especially with Samuel. When I read Samuel, I read. He's a firecracker. That Samuel, he is like, he could be sitting up there being all like stodgy and wise on Samuel, but no, man, Samuel has the best comebacks ever in the Bible. I mean, he's snarky. Samuel is so wonderful in texture as a character, and you know, Daniel helped to bring that out a lot. And it's just like, another thing that kind of helps me to really kind of embody that character through this crow character. Samuel is no nonsense.
Yeah.
And when you look at him, you don't really know what he's thinking. He could either be, you know, kind of very benign, or he could be very violent. And as you see in book 1 of Dominion, at the altar, where Saul should have basically killed the king of the Amalekites, he doesn't. He's there and he's like, oh yeah, you know, High Priest Samuel, you know, thank you for coming by, and thank you for sparing my life. And what does High Priest Samuel do? High Priest Samuel takes him out. He ends it because it's like, you know, you shouldn't even be here, so I'm going to pick you out. Now, people could see that as irrational or not, but no, Samuel is the arbiter of the Almighty's justice. And so the crows in this book, to me, speak a lot of different things when you saying, but they are the Levitical class. Now, there may be a few who may not be crows. There's some aspirants who want to advance to the Levitical class, but predominantly they are crows, definitely.
So I was thinking also mythologically, you've got the crows that were the ravens, crows. I use them interchangeably, even though I know they're slightly different. Odin had Hugin and Munin, which were thought and memory that would go back down to earth and then back to him and say, "Hey, here's what's going on." And of course, they could go down to earth and say, "Hey, here's the word of Odin."
I love that.
So you got that thing going too. I know the story, so I'm trying to think about the parts there that I don't know, because like we said with The Chosen, they had to fill in a lot of the stuff that wasn't there.
Yeah.
Anything you can read in a half an hour is not going to make a television series.
Yeah.
But I don't remember much about Saul's wife or Saul's daughter, Jonathan's sister, and yet they play a pretty major role in your storytelling.
Yeah, that was a fantastic opportunity to create new depictions of these characters that are very strong women. And the thing that I wanted to do with Dominion is to give readers something that everybody can relate to. And girls and women, they are represented in the Bible in very, very strong ways that I think that are undersold in a lot of ways. And so it's not that I'm trying to add to scripture at all, I'm not. But what I am trying to do is just remind people through this storytelling that there are very strong women in the Bible. And our story is a family story. It's a family drama at the end of the day. And you can't have a family drama without a good strong father, a good strong mother, and a brother and sister dynamic. Maybe there's multiple kids, whatever, but for our story, it's it's Jonathan, Saul, it's Henoam, and it's McCall. It's those characters, otherwise known as Michael, as we all grown up calling it. And so it was fun for me to dive into a little bit of research as to who these two women were. I think Henoam has maybe two or three references in the Old Testament. One that just indicates she's the daughter of, I can't remember the name of her father. Another one is that she become kind of like a spoil of war. She basically became David's, I guess, concubine or whatever, wife, whatever, I don't know. But it's the weirdest thing. So we kind of like veered away from that a little bit. When I was kind of fashioning the character of Henoam, I basically fashioned her off of Nefertiti, Queen of Egypt. In history, her story is very similar to what's happening with King Saul. She was the queen of a pharaoh who was losing his mind rapidly. Akhenaten was I think he was the only pharaoh that worshipped one god, Yat, the sun. I think it was the sun. And I don't know what was going on with him, but he was basically unraveling into madness. And so she had to pick up the slack by using his signet ring to basically run Egypt and run the government, wage war, do all sorts of stuff. And so I said, man, that would be kind of like a cool parallel if we could kind of somehow bring that into this story and show how Henoam is behind the scenes keeping Dominion basically alive and safe and strong as Saul that unravels into madness. And we're slowly seeing that through the first 4 books, but we're going to see Henlon even more in book 5 and her role of this kind of queen regent of Dominion. And Princess Michael, she basically was another spoil of war. I mean, I guess, hey, you defeat Goliath, here's my daughter. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, there is that, but we can make her a much more nuanced and complex character, giving her a little bit more of a storyline. She basically becomes a kind of like the freedom fighter. She's like the canary in the coal mine. She knows what's going on the fringes of Dominion, where this mystery is unfolding, of these probing actions of the Philistines, and she basically takes one of her father's decommissioned mech suits, and she goes out and she fights for the disenfranchised on the Dominion perimeter.
I'm interested in seeing how you're going to translate the fight between David and Goliath with this.
I'm sure you do.
and well, my initial jump is like, hey, it's Luke in the Death Star, hit that one little spot. I'm like, nah, he's not gonna go quite that direct.
I mean, no, it's definitely, everything in Dominion is nuance. It is. Yeah. There are kind of stories within stories. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be a lot more nuanced than that. But I guarantee, and Mr. Daniel Hancock will tell you that those last 2 books are going to be fire. I mean, we slowed it back down a little bit in chapter 5, arguably speaking, because we had to get some character development in. But 6 and 7 is Infinity War and Endgame. It really is. So yeah, it's gonna. It won't. You won't be disappointed.
So, are you going to touch on the? It's a trivial fact. Everyone knows the story of David and Goliath, and they all kind of gloss over the fact that David picked up 5 stones and then shot one and killed him. Like, what are you going to do with the other 4? Well, Goliath had 4 brothers. So
let's just say we know all that.
Okay.
and we are fully very well aware of all of that. And as we're doing our research, we're definitely making plans for all of that. I mean, I think that there's room. The good thing about this, and I was alluding to this when I was talking about my brother and his question about why I do the Bible. Yes, we definitely want people to read the Bible, but there's a mountain of stories that we can tell in the Bible that we probably would never be able to stop telling. So the Dominion is going to outlive me by leaps and bounds, you know what I'm saying, because of the Bible. And the thing is, if we get, one person to say, hey, where is this from? What is that story? What is the real story behind this? And then they go back to the Bible and read it. Yo, mission accomplished.
But it's a worthwhile mission, and like you said, I think a lot of people do that with movies and stories. Are like, this is based on what, and they'll go back and read the original. So, you point them back to the source material. You'll have like you said with the chick tracks, the numbers game. You'll get some that will go back and reread the source material and take away the message that was.
We even put little asterisks. Remember, like in Marvel Comics, back in the day. They have like a little asterisk, the note in a panel or something. We have that where it's like you can find this direct scene in for Samuel blah blah blah.
Well, this is again. I've got to get more books now. Because I've got to read volume 2, and
you're
sure that volume 3 will be done by Christmas?
Let me talk about that really quick. So this Kickstarter is awesome because we, as a small print publisher, we don't print in high volume, we print on demand. And so when we do print something, we do a Kickstarter run, all these books are exclusive to the run. And once they're gone, they're gone. And so, as many people as want to purchase a book, they can during this time. It's 30 days. so they can get whatever they want. And so, and then of course, in special occasions or whatever, we will do more print runs. In this one in particular, we have number 5, which is going to be exclusive. We're also offering our previously released Volume 1 and Volume 2 as a set. But we also have a special edition of our hardcover Volume 1 and hardcover Volume 2, which is signed
so nice.
by myself and my co-writer, Daniel Henry. Well, he's actually the writer, so I'm more of an artist than anything. So, but yes, that right there is going to be very, very special. Now, we pride ourselves at Turn This Video with the quality of our prints, because our books are sleek. This right here, boy, oh boy, oh boy. Man, once the thing starts up, I'm actually going to buy one myself, because it's like having the hardcover book. And by the way, Volume 3 will be hardcover edition as well as an option too. So what we'll do is we'll bundle Volume 1 for Christmas, Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3 as a set. And so you'll either be able to, if you've already had Volume 1 and Volume 2, you can buy Volume 3 hardcover by itself, signed, or you can get the whole set by the end of Christmas. For this one, it's Volume 1, Volume 2 hardcover as a premium. And so that will be signed by myself and Mr. Hancock. And that's right, man, it's going to be fire.
I'm ready to get it. So the Kickstarter that kicks off tomorrow, what are you seeing as a delivery date on that?
Well, we have to, it's going to be 30 days. So as soon as it wraps up, it's going to wrap up in the middle of July. We will then probably take some time to have the books printed. So that'll be early August. You're looking at September for a delivery date.
That makes sense, because the volume is collecting the 2 floppies. And when I say floppy, I don't know if these are 22-page floppies or if they're 48 or...
About 40.
Okay, so they're big books on their standalones. So the art is done. The story is done. This is the printing process that we're going into.
Yeah, well, for book 5, the artwork is probably 3/4. It's... I think we have maybe like 10 more pages left, and of the 40 pages. So yeah, it's like 3/4 like that. And so it really is much more of a printing thing that we're doing. We got to, of course, pay our team, get the books printed, and that's really what we're looking at here.
All right. Well, Dr. Bell, thank you so much for coming out this morning and talking with us about Dominion. People watching the video, people in the chat, the link to the Kickstarter. I know that it's pointing right now to the pre-launch. It's the same link. It will still take you to the...
It's the same link.
So if you're watching this Monday, Tuesday, anytime during the 30-day campaign, that link will work. Click it, get out to the Kickstarter. If you've missed the Kickstarter, or if you're like, yeah, I just want the floppies, because some people just like the single, collect them that way, the second link will take you to Terminus Media. You can buy the books there, correct?
Yeah, there are some books that we still have that you can buy directly from the website, especially our Volume 1, which is our trade paperback. We have tons of those. So at the individual floppies, after a certain time, we don't really print those on demand, because it really doesn't make sense to do. Those are the ones we just really point people. That's why they're collectible. We really point people to our Volume 1 trade paperback, which is beautiful, by the way. And then, of course, our Volume 2 will also be a trade paperback.
Well, I'm going to jump in on these hardcovers, because that just sounds so durable, and I like hardcover books. We publish books here. We publish hardcover books.
Oh, we definitely need to talk to you. But yeah,
our last book was not. Our last book was a collection of stories of people who have encounters with Satan. It was called The Devil You Know Better.
We can still talk. We can
still talk.
Yeah, I still love it. But it's funny about hardcovers. I said this lastly. I got this and this is not a Dominion, but this is like Stuart Eminem, who does tons and tons of work with Marvel and whatever. There's something about the quality of a hardcover book that is second to none. Now, digital books are fine, whenever you can put it on your iPad or whatever, but man, when you open up a hardcover, and this is what the mini is going to be like, you'll see like the glossy pages, it's just a beautiful thing. It has that hardcover books, man. Gotta love it. And so,
yes,
I'm a big advocate for it. This is the first time we really, technically the second time, but really the first real big scale time of doing this. And so, I would say people need to really take up on it.
Well, I'm looking very much forward to it. And folks in the chat watching the video tonight, I think you will be too if you give this Kickstarter a shot. I've talked with Dr. Bell before. I was just as excited last time as I am about this time. So I'm going to be getting my volume 2 in hard. I got to go back and get volume 1 in hardcover now. That's what I'm
You
going to
definitely do. You definitely. By the way, well, Buzz has been great. We've been endorsed by Eric Metaxas and a lot of other people. Sean Sharma from The Chosen. Those quotes are actually going to be on the back cover of the page, so you can see that. 5 stars on Amazon, so it's like we're just really kind of rising in the ranks. So it's really good.
All right. Everybody in chat, thank you so much for being here this morning. We do appreciate you. We don't have a show without you. We're just a podcast falling in the woods otherwise. So we're glad that you're here. And of course, while you were here, everyone, we just hope you had a blast. Good day.